Kevin McCarthy of the state of California, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
As Speaker of the House, my ultimate responsibility is not to my party. My responsibility, our responsibility, is to our country.
Fox News alert. Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House as the 118th Congress is sworn in.
Indiana Congresswoman Victoria Spartz voted present 8 times, then flipped her vote back to McCarthy.
And she joins us now. Congresswoman Spartz, thanks for being with us this morning. We'd love to know your thought process through these 15 rounds of voting. So, as I understand it, originally, I think you did support Kevin McCarthy before switching your vote to present for several rounds. I'm curious, at that time, why did you move your vote from McCarthy to present?
Well, thank you so much. Well, I think, we're going to be governing in a very tight majority, and we need to be able to talk to each other. And I felt the stalemate is not a good situation. And Kevin needs to understand that conservatives are strong people. We are not going to be ruled with an iron fist. We're not to have Queen Pelosi or King McCarthy. We're freedom-loving people, and we have to get to the table and to be able to reconcile differences. And some of my colleagues had legitimate concerns we needed to address. So I wanted Kevin to go back to the table and not talk about grievances. A lot of things happened. We had a lot of bad blood, but we can get through it, and it makes us stronger, and it will make Kevin stronger as the Speaker because he will have to go through this exercise many times.
And how about your switch then, to follow up on Will's question, from present to McCarthy? Is it because you feel like he met the concessions of conservatives who feel like it'll be a more conservative majority?
Well, I think it was also, he went back to the table in good faith, and some other members. And my colleagues negotiated these rules, and probably, each of the sides somewhat a little bit unhappy, but that's okay. That's how negotiations work. But we move Congress in the right direction and make it a more democratic institution what the American people want. American people are tired of top-down approaches and of establishment of any party ruling down with an iron fist. That's not a good thing.
Now, a question for you. Some of the holdouts, part of their holdout was they don't want to be funding the war in Ukraine, which is, I know, something very near and dear to you. So it was interesting when people saw you voting present, it was with some people who were against funding the war in Ukraine. Now, the U.S. just announced a new $3 billion package to include armored fighting vehicles, Bradleys. How do Republicans reconcile their view of Ukraine funding right now?
I think the view, and I share the same view, we shouldn't be sending any blank checks to any country, and to this administration in particular. This administration fails us on every issue, and we cannot have another Afghanistan in Ukraine. So there is a lot of speculation and a lot of different disinformation, but a lot of conservatives just want to make sure that we do have proper oversight. And I actually was the one, whether popular was or not, to actually push for proper oversight, because we cannot be spending money not knowing where they go. So I think the view of, a lot of my colleagues are not really presented correctly, and I actually agree with a lot of them. Our country and our debt spend is out of control, and we need to be more strategic, including in Europe and Ukraine. And this administration has been dragging their feet, was not proactive, and actually wasn't doing a good job in Ukraine either. A lot of people are dying because they made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of people died in Afghanistan because of that too. And a lot of people are dying now in our cities, and we have disaster at the border. So I think it's a disastrous administration. We hold to hold accountable.
So to that end, Congresswoman, what are you most looking forward to in the 118th Congress as we approach, given the Democrats still have their hold over the Senate and the White House? What are you most looking forward to being able to accomplish in this next session?
Well, I think, to be realistic, we need to show American people what we can deliver if we have the Senate and presidency, and I think we will have them in 24. But now what the most effective thing we can exercise, being in majority, is oversight of the executive branch, and that is one of the core functions of Congress.
That's right.
Congresswoman Victoria Spartz, thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.